d4, e6, e4, d5, knight d2.
The French defense is a sturdy but often confusing opening that appeals to counterattackers and players with a preference for closed or blocked positions. The pace of the play is slower than a Najdorf or Dragon Sicilian. White has slightly greater control of the center, but black has good counterattacking possibilities. The main drawback from black's point of view is activating his light-squared bishop, which is obstructed by the e6 pawn.
Knight f6, e5, knight f d7, c3, c5, knight g f3.
This may lead to gambit-type play as compared to the more popular variation bishop d3, knight c6, knight e2.
Knight c6, bishop d3, queen b6, castle kingside.
White offers his d-pawn in return for a strong lead in development. The key to the gambit is the position of white's queen. If the white queen can somehow find her way over to black's kingside, then white should be in very good shape. If not, black should have no problems at all defending.
C takes d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight takes d4, queen takes d4, knight f3, queen b6, queen a4, queen b4.
Yudovchich alertly prevents Korchnoi from playing queen g4. A queen trade, of course, must be avoided by white, so the queen must retreat.
Queen c2, h6.
Not a good move by Yudovchich. This move is just too passive and weakens the kingside besides. Much better was queen c5, giving white the choice between bishop captures h7, queen takes c2, bishop takes c2, with a small edge for the first player, or the more ambitious queen e2, aiming for bishop e3 and rook a c1.
Bishop d2, queen b6.
If Yudovchich attempts to trade queens with queen c5, Korchnoi could simply then play queen a4, and black no longer has available that interposition move queen b4.
Rook a c1, bishop e7, queen a4.
The queen returns to her post, but this time she is supported by fresh development. Note how black has trouble dealing with that pin of the knight on d7. If black tries to break that pin with castles, white has the surprising riff bishop b5, knight c5, rook takes c5. The point being that if queen takes c5, rook c1, queen b6, 20 bishop a5, the black queen is trapped. After rook takes c5, if black tries bishop takes c5, that's demolished by bishop a5, bishop takes f2 check, rook takes f2, queen e3, bishop b4, black's toast.
Queen d8.
Yudovchich had to bring the queen back to the start square for defensive reasons, but from here forward it's clear that white, thanks to all of his aggressively placed pieces and safe king, has a clear advantage.
Rook c2.
Korchnoi doubles his rooks in order to cement his control of the c-file. If black castles, white sets up a powerful attacking formation with queen g4, threatening bishop takes h6, king h8 forced, rook fc1, b6, b4. Black can hardly move. Black's pieces have very little scope, and white is poised to attack and invade at will on both sides of the board. Udovchich makes the drastic decision to abandon the plan of castling altogether and moves his king out of the pin.
King f8. Rook fc1. Knight b6. Queen g4. Bishop d7. Bishop a5.
Korchnoi keeps black tied up by pinning the knight, which also happens to be one of black's only active pieces.
Rook c8. Rook takes c8. Bishop takes c8. Bishop b4.
Korchnoi seizes the chance to trade off dark-squared bishops and has calculated variations like bishop takes b4, queen takes b4 check, king g8, queen a5 attacking that pawn on a7, a6 meeting that threat, queen takes b6, a nice queen sack, queen takes b6, rook takes c8 check with mate next move.
g6.
Udovchich's only chance was king g8, but white has then a4, bishop d7, bishop captures e7, queen takes e7, a5, driving black's knight to a horrible square, knight a8, only move, and then the centralizing queen d4 gives white a totally dominant position for the investment of one tiny little pawn. Now Victor the Terrible decides the game with a spectacular combinative assault.
Queen h4.
A brutal move by Korchnoi. Suddenly the bishop on e7 is pinned two ways.
g5.
Well, of course, if bishop takes b4, queen takes d8 check, white wins, and bishop takes h4 is illegal. That leaves only the game continuation and king e8 as viable defenses for black. Let's see what happens after king e8. I think that's best answered by the simple queen f4, preparing to strike on the queen side with a2, a4. After queen f4, if black tries to drive the queen away with g5, white says, "Be my guest," and then plays queen d4, happy that black has further weakened his position. Nevertheless, king e8 was probably black's best chance.
Knight takes g5.
Because of the pins of that pawn on h6 and the bishop on e7, that knight is untouchable.
King e8. Bishop b5 check. Bishop d7. Knight takes e6.
This fantastic blow shatters the defenses to black's king. If black now plays bishop takes h4, grabbing the queen, that leads to knight g7 mate. If black plays bishop takes b5, white has a beautiful shot, knight g7 check, king f8. Check this out, knight f5, incredible. Knight c8, the only move to stay in the game, and then rook takes c8 blows that away. In the game continuation, Korchnoi had to calculate that he could decisively bring up reserves to finish off the attack before black could organize a defense.
F takes e6. Queen h5 check. King f8. Rook c3. Rook h7.
Udovchich tries valiantly to hang on by getting the rook involved with the defense.
Queen g6.
White threatens the crushing rook to f3 check.
Rook g7. Queen takes h6.
Every white move now comes with the force of a sledgehammer. This time the threat is queen h8 check followed by rook f3 check.
Bishop takes b5.
Let's say black plays king g8. That doesn't help at all, because white wins with rook h3. Bishop takes b5, the only chance. Queen h8 check, driving the black king out. King f7, rook f3 check. We've seen that move before. King g6, rook g3 check. King f5, and now just queen takes g7. And black can resign with a clear conscience.
Rook g3.
Missed